Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, when and wherever you're watching, and welcome to beautiful Dunedin, Florida, a charming little town just north of Tampa, one of the very first intentionally planned communities in the state, deep Scottish roots. So we're going to go explore this old, beautiful, and intriguing little town, and then we're going to go to a place called Honeymoon Island, a barrier island just over on the Gulf, not far from here. So join me today as we go and explore Dunedin and Honeymoon Island. So this is such a beautiful little town. It's almost like a historic district, old Florida, combined with beach, if that makes any sense. But when you just look at the history here, now a lot of these buildings are 100 years old, supposedly, according to records. They're just remodeled, refurbished, reutilized, and they look amazing. It has a very cool little tiny vibe to it. Now, people have said this is a sleepy little town, but don't let that fool you. This place is full of energy. It's very, very crowded, popular today. They have a little Saturday market going on, and people are everywhere. And it's brutally hot, almost 100 degrees with feels like temperature, the humidity, and it's still very, very popular, full of people walking around. But just a great little place. Now, to me, this doesn't look like 100-year-old buildings, but apparently this place has a lot of historical significance. They've just redone the buildings, remodeled everything, repurposed it. So this town was actually originally established 1870s. George Jones opened up a little general store, put a sign down, named this as his establishment or a establishment here in Florida. However, in 1882, two Scots came into town, opened a mercantile business, and petitioned for a post office. Granted the petition, a post office came, they named this town Dunedin, a Scottish Gaelic, if I'm saying that correctly, name for Edinburgh. Deep Scottish roots here. And if you're wondering why they chose Dunedin, it was for the deep water access. As we'll see later, when you go to the water, it already had established channels. They could get boats in. This had one of the biggest fleets in the state of Florida of vessels coming in. There was no cars, no railroads back then. So speaking of railroads, this was actually built in 1888, one of the first railroad stations, which was called the Orange Belt Railway. It was a smaller track. I think it was a 3-foot track versus something bigger. It allowed smaller cars that were wood-burning cars instead of coal-burning. But just a neat history. The original building burnt down, and then in the early 1900s, they built this brick facade building, and of course, no longer. But this town is just a cool, cute little town. Again, just has that beach feel, but old Florida feel at the same time. Look at all the people in this beautiful, beautiful day. So this bike path here used to be the railroad tracks. And a neat thing about this county, Pinellas County that we're in, is they took all the tracks up and made this incredible biking, walking, hiking path. And it runs for miles and miles. I'm not sure how far it goes, but just a neat way of keeping the town as a healthy and vibrant, walkable, rideable area. Really neat. So a fun little fact about Dunedin is one of the main reasons they incorporated the town was the streets here, all through the downtown historic area, which wasn't historic then, obviously, were pigs, feral pigs, and some, pigs that I guess the locals had. And they were causing problems, disturbing, going under homes, because a lot of the homes were built elevated then. And so they incorporated the town, passed 2 laws. The first law was get a mayor. The second law, no farm, no livestock allowed in the downtown area and city limits. And so that was the elimination of the feral pigs running around everywhere. But here's more of just how cool this little place is. Dunedin's actually a lot bigger than I expected. I didn't realize the size of it. It's actually, it's small in its own right and quaint, but maybe it's just because today my temperature gauge is saying 100 degrees and you're literally melting outside, being the end of June, but it's still, it's just a cool little place. Definitely different than what I had expected. And pleasantly surprised. I think it's a great little place to visit and see. So I think one of the big misconceptions about Dunedin is that it's a small, sleepy little fishing town even when it was established. And that's a big mistake, because one of the reasons that the Scots came here and established Dunedin was for deep water vessel access. And that is what this marina and channel provided. You could bring in the biggest shipping vessels without a problem. They didn't have dredging back then, as far as I know. They may have, I don't know. Somebody correct me. But this is one of the big attractions. Because I asked myself, why wouldn't they go to Tampa? Why wouldn't they go north, Tarpon Springs? And they had the largest sailing fleet in the state of Florida, right here in Dunedin. Ships here allowed them to have global access and ship citrus everywhere around the world. So we are now outside of Dunedin, just 2 miles away, at what is called Honeymoon Island. But this wasn't always Honeymoon Island. If you see this island here, this is Caladesi Island. They were all together one large island. Also wasn't called Caladesi, it was called Hog Island because it had wild hogs running all around the place that were brought in from loggers and even maybe from the Spaniards. They can't really confirm that. But in 1921, a hurricane hit and opened up this pass called Hurricane Pass now. And then the funny thing about Honeymoon Island is it got its name by a gentleman later on in the 1900s who ran ads. He was a developer, came in and built 50 thatched huts made from palm thatches. on Honeymoon Island, which was then called something else. Ran ads in the magazines to get people to come here for their honeymoon. And the name stuck, Honeymoon Island. Ever since then, it's been Honeymoon Island. And in the 1980s, it became a national park and preserve, and that's where it's gotten today, which is a great barrier, natural barrier for the inlet here. But beautiful, beautiful day. Storms are starting to roll in a little bit. We need that with this heat. But as you can see, very popular place. Well, guys, if you get the chance, check out Dunedin, check out Honeymoon Island, come out here. The causeway is free, it's beautiful out here. Great little place. I appreciate you coming along, as always, for this adventure. It's the beauty of doing these. I've never been here before, and I'm so glad I got to visit and see what it's like. Beautiful, beautiful place. So again, thank you for coming along, and I will see you on the next adventure.